Welcome to another edition of the GreenBaje podcast. As always, that is AJ. He is the green. I am Ken. I am the beige. And we are back. 2 weeks off, but we are back with you this week. How is it going, AJ?
It's all good. All good on this side. Usually have weather complaints, but it's been manageable recently. So kind of what you would call southern spring weather, I guess. So it's been good. Otherwise, everything is good. What about yourself?
Not too bad. We have had some pretty decent weather here for the last few weeks. So no complaints there. Today we got up to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So, I mean, that is almost summer-like. That's a cooler day coming, but, it is spring. So
True.
we enjoy it while we can. Now, one of the things that I did manage to do during the couple of weeks that we've been off is that I went to my first NBA game. I went to Ball Arena to see the Denver Nuggets take on the Memphis Grizzlies. And that was the game where Nikola Jokic was the first ever player to score 2,000 points.
Right.
1,000 rebounds and 500 assists. I think that's what it was. So
you reached that milestone,
yeah. So that was fantastic. It was a great experience. Right now, considering if I'd want to try to get tickets for this game on Sunday, because Sunday is when the Nuggets come home playing game 4 against the Warriors.
Right.
But I don't know how it would feel going to that game knowing that I'm going to be rooting for the away team. So it's a little bit, it has me thinking a little bit. But
yeah, I get the dilemma.
Yeah, for sure. But it's good to be back. And it's been a busy couple of weeks while we've been off with the NBA regular season ending, the playoffs beginning. Baseball has finally started, and we have the United States Football League, which kicked off this weekend. Lots of newness. That's the theme of this week's episode, newness. So there's lots of newness in the air, like the pollen of spring. For the USFL, the United States Football League, there are 8 teams in the USFL. There are the Michigan Panthers, the New Jersey Generals, the Philadelphia Stars, Pittsburgh Maulers, and they make up the North Division. And then there's the Birmingham Stallions, the Houston Gamblers, the New Orleans Breakers, and Tampa Bay Bandits. They make up the South. Now, of course, you never know who'll turn up in one of these games. Like former NFL first-round pick Paxton Lynch, who played for the Michigan Panthers. I'll put up a whopping 1.7 QBR.
What does that mean? What?
He went 2 for 5 for 1 yard, 1 interception, 2 fumbles with 1 fumble loss.
Wait, I'm so lost. I'm so confused. This actually happened.
Yes, this actually happened.
And he wasn't, I'm not familiar with the format. So is it like, how are the quarters, like how long is the game itself? How are the quarters divided?
I'm not sure how the quarters are divided, but he didn't play a whole quarter.
He didn't, okay. So he was actually the starting quarterback, or he came?
He came in during the game. And on his first snap was a fumble that he recovered. And I think like a few plays later, his next big action was another fumble that he lost. And then where he had a guy making a breaking out route, rather than throw the ball outside, he threw the ball inside and got picked off.
Seems legit.
Yep. Ouch. But the USFL gives many players an opportunity to showcase their skills and hope for a call-up, to the NFL for the upcoming season. Now, someone in the NFL who might be looking for pastures new is Kyler Murray. And this is where we go off the rip. Now, we mentioned a couple months ago, after the Pro Bowl, Kyler had scrubbed all but one photo of himself and the Arizona Cardinals off his Instagram. Like when that schoolgirl finds out her boyfriend's been chatting up her friend behind her back. At the time, Kyler said it was nothing and that he was still committed to the Cardinals. Since then, he's come out and demanded a new contract. His agent has made a contract offer to the Cardinals who didn't accept, and they have now pulled the contract. Now, we're hearing the question. Will Kyler play on the last year of his rookie deal? What do you think?
I think he will. I think he will. I just find it hard to believe that the way things have been playing out so far, that the Cardinals would actually be willing to let him go at this point. So I think it will be resolved at least for the short term. After one more season, I'll have to reassess this to see where I think it goes beyond that. But as for the 2022 season, I can't see him not being a Cardinal. This came out of the, let me not say out of the blue, because I feel like the Cardinals would have known this. And I really don't think that it took them by surprise. And the fact that we haven't really heard anything from their camp means they were kind of like either expecting it or knew it was happening. As I said, we don't know what preparations they made behind the scenes, but it seems like they're equipped enough to handle it. And I do believe that he will be a Cardinal for that final year of the rookie deal.
Now, for me, it's hard to figure out what's really going on here because there's so much double speak happening from Kyler and his camp. But what we know to be true is that there is a disconnect here between the organization and their star quarterback. Kyler felt that he was made to be a scapegoat at the end of their playoff run, and well, as Ricky Nurse, who has joined us so many times, he always says that he likes to listen to what statements of support are coming out from the organization. And right now, there is a lack of support coming out from the players and the coaches going to bat for Kyler. Honestly, I see it going the other way. I see it's unlikely. I'm not saying that it's definite, but it's unlikely that he plays for them again because something is broken, and I don't think that it is just money that fixes it. And I mean, he's had his best production, well, his only production, because he's only been there the same time that Cliff Kingsbury's been there. And I don't see it, I don't feel that it is him angling to get Cliff out. But outside of that, I don't see where else. Like, I can't pinpoint what the problem is outside of him feeling like if he was made to be a scapegoat. So it's not like if there's something that they can easily do and say, well, this fixes the problem. We don't quite know what the problem is to start. Now, on the other side of the coin, there is the Cardinals, who have Kyler under contract for one more year and have come out and said that he is not going to be traded. I mean, where have we heard that before? Now, while it is understandable that they will not want to move him, especially with very few teams who may still be unsettled at quarterback and would have the assets to make a trade plausible, it's more fun to think of Kyler moving than him staying. So where does he go if he goes?
Well, you would have to start there because you're the one that is positing that he could potentially leave. I didn't look at any potential destinations as yet because I'm still convinced that last year is going to be in Arizona. So you begin while I think about it.
Okay, no problem. So of all places, three teams came to mind almost immediately. Now, the first one is the one I believe is most unlikely, which is the Tennessee Titans. We know that the Titans have not been so convinced this last year with Ryan Tannehill as they had been the year prior. Yes, Tannehill has quarterbacked the team to be the #1 seed in the AFC 2 seasons in a row, but they are still looking to see what the market has out there that could potentially give them a leg up. When you look at what they like to do on offense, having a quarterback that is as dynamic as Kyler Murray running the football coupling him with Derrick Henry in the backfield, then they see the opportunities as endless. And then if you have a quarterback of Kyler Murray's standing, you may not necessarily then have to pay an AJ Brown because you don't. Yes, it's good to have a stud receiver, but you can have some good receivers that are less expensive than AJ Brown's contract would be, especially with the nuclear explosion and mushroom cloud that is the wide receiver market at this point in time. So Tennessee is the first one that comes to mind. The other two are much more likely, in my opinion, and those are my Saints and the Carolina Panthers. Now, the New Orleans Saints, they are still searching for a successor for Drew Brees. And while they have given Jameis a 2-year deal, the fact that it's only a 2-year deal makes me less certain that they see him as a long-term option, but they're actually giving him a legitimate opportunity to try to prove that he's really that guy. And he is coming off an ACL tear, but all reports are that he seems to be just as good as he was before. So we'll wait and see. No, the Saints have a good history with short quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. And the dynamism that Kyler provides would definitely help improve our offensive outlook behind our solid O-line. And then we still have the playmakers that are Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. And now that we know that the experiment of Taysom Hill at quarterback is over, I can put him in the offensive weapon category as well. So we have those three dynamic weapons at wide receiver, running back, and I guess wherever you slot Taysom Hill, be it fullback, halfback, tight end. As long as it's not quarterback, I'm happy. Now, they have 2 top 20 picks in this year's draft. So they could make a very interesting offer to Arizona, including Jameis as a sweetener, where he'd still have an opportunity to make an audition to either the Cardinals or to another team that is looking ahead to 2023 for their next quarterback. Of all the quarterbacks that they could potentially land in any deal right now at this point, Jameis probably is the best one. I mean, if we're being fair. So that's the potential move from the Saints perspective. Now for the Panthers, they don't have a clue what they're doing. They literally don't know their head from their foot right now. When you see the interview today, Tuesday, the 19th of April, that Ben McAdoo gave to the media, where he announced that Sam Darnold was going to be their starting quarterback, only to backtrack a few minutes later and say he shouldn't have said that. They've been trying to find Cam Newton's replacement, and they've tried everybody they could, including Cam Newton. They coveted Deshaun Watson for 2 years, and then he goes to the Browns. So they will continue to swing and risk at every skirt that passes, like the drunk guy in the bar when it's last call. That is the Panthers. So I feel if there's one of them that will be most likely to go for him, it would be the Panthers. But the Saints would be in that mix as well. Now you've had a couple moments to think about it. What are your thoughts?
I'm trying to all right. So I was also as well, that's a bit redundant. I was also trying to listen to your assessment while I was doing my search, right? And the first one that did come up, and to me, I know you're saying that seems the least feasible, but to me, that's arguably the most feasible, and that is the Titans. Because first of all, I think, I don't, I could be wrong here, but in terms of like what capital they have to be able to make a trade, and the fact that they still do have Ryan Tannehill, I think that what they have, they can package into a trade. And I'm looking at it from the perspective of a team would not necessarily trade in their conference if they are still like trying to contend, essentially, right? So the Cardinals would have to know that trading Kyler to the Saints or the Panthers, and I completely agree with you. Like right now, the Panthers are purgatory, right? They have no idea what's going on at quarterback. I don't think I don't think anyone in that organization knows what is really going to happen at this point. Because just a few weeks ago or months ago, whatever it was, they were in for Deshaun, and then that didn't happen. So clearly they are looking to upgrade, right? But I don't know that with the pieces that the Cardinals have put together over the last couple of seasons to be a Super Bowl contending team, I would say, that they would trade Kyler within the conference, the NFC. So I feel it's more likely that he goes over to the AFC, right? This is not like the case with Houston trading Deshaun to Cleveland, because Houston basically blew everything up. They basically blew every single thing up. They don't have anyone on their roster that is worth even looking at, not even for fantasy. That's something I guess we'll get around to that when that time comes, yep. Right? But I think it's just more likely that he goes to. I heard the arguments for the Saints and whatnot. They're not necessarily bad, but I'm predicating this solely on the fact that I don't see Arizona trading him within the NFC. So I think the Cardinals are a destination. And I'm going to add in one more just for the sake of it, just to poke this deep in tiger, because at some point we have to talk about this again. But speaking of short quarterbacks and upgrading, well, there is Miami. There is Miami. Miami just made a play. Miami just made a play to become a better team. They keep building weapons. They keep getting weapons in. By the way, Miami, thanks for Devontae Parker. I'll revive him for you. But they just made a play. They're trying to go all in to give this team the best chance possible to make it to the playoffs and to go as far as they can, at least, right? And up to now, they're still unproven and the jury's still out on Tua. Now we know that in terms like ownership, GM, like they're the ones that believe in Tua. Hence the reason why Brian Flores is the one who's not there any longer and Tua still is. However, I just find it hard to believe that if a situation arises where Kyler Murray is going to be on the market, that you do not try to upgrade. Because it is definitely an upgrade. It's definitely an upgrade. I'm not even saying that it's a major upgrade, because Kyler, he did wet the bed in his playoff appearance, right? Mm-hmm. However, when we're talking about the other side of that being Tua Tagovailoa, I think it's a definite upgrade. You mentioned Kyler's skill set and what he can do. As I said, Miami is building. So I'm just trying to throw another name in the pot, also because they're in the AFC. So I'll list them as another destination, because at this point, even with Tua starting under center, Miami, they're still in the division with, and I'm going to leave my Pats out of it. They're in the division with the Buffalo Bills, so they're still not going to be favored. They need something more, and that might be Tua. So I'll throw Miami in there.
It's interesting that you pick Miami all the other teams. No, I totally get what you're saying. It's just that, as you made mention of ownership and their love of fear with Tua Tagovailoa, which is why they were so comfortable to get rid of a coach that was winning games for them.
Yeah.
I don't see it this season. Tua would have to, like, as we have mentioned before, they've given him pretty much everything that a quarterback could want. He has an upgraded quarterback room. He has an upgraded wide receiver room. He still has two very good tight ends. They've been working on the offensive line. He has everything that he could want. The one thing he does not have anything more of is room for excuses. So if he flops this season, I can see Miami definitely being in the market for another quarterback next season.
Post beyond 2022.
Yes.
I get you.
I just don't this season.
That's fair. I'm not going to rule it out. That's just how little I believe in Tua. It could be a scathing indictment on myself and just how much I'm not willing to commit to certain quarterbacks. But at first that even when he was starting to get some play, I was like, all right, well, yeah, the coach wants to see what he has and whatnot. I just haven't been convinced, and I'm not sure that he has proven anything to anyone to say, well, if a better quarterback is available, we'll still stick with you.
Okay.
But we'll see how that plays out.
Definitely. Now, from one former Oklahoma Sooner to another, your boy, Baker Mayfield, he is determined not to go away quietly, it seems. Appearing on the You Never Know, You Know What I Mean podcast, Baker wanted to give his side. Among the comments he made, he said he feels disrespected by the Browns and that they told him one thing and then they did another. He didn't hesitate to mention that he's had 4 different head coaches in 4 years and multiple coordinators. What seems apparent is that Baker is trying to burn every bridge with the Browns that he feels they burned with him to make sure he's traded from Cleveland. The places that he seems most likely to go at this point are Seattle, who has Drew Lock currently penciled in as a starter, with Geno Smith returning to compete for the job, subject to approval of his contract by the NFL. The problem with his contract has not been stated as yet, but we know that Baker wants out, and the Browns would like to move him, but so far, the Seahawks are not chasing him, as per Josina Anderson. And we have wide receiver Robbie Anderson expressing his displeasure at a potential Baker trade. So, where does Baker Mayfield go?
Baker's scenario is such a precarious one, right? Because in my estimation, this has more to do with the financial side than it does the eye test. Baker is one of our favorite topics. We never tire of speaking of Baker, right? It's been from minute one until from minute one, and here we are now.
Yeah.
Right? And we've had our back and forth about Baker. I've come around on certain things with regards to Baker, but
well done.
As much as he has shown more so to be inconsistent as opposed to progressive, see what I did there? But in what was arguably his worst season to date, as in the just concluded 2021 season, he was playing on a serious injury, and I think that will be considered. And he's still a baby in this league. I'm saying all of this to say that under normal circumstances, Baker would be given another chance by another team. I think what is giving teams pause is the fact that he will be owed this $18 million in 2022. And teams don't want to get stuck with him or with that, right? In Seattle's case, Seattle seem like they're just blowing everything up. They seem like they're blowing it up right now. So I don't know that they go in for Baker right now, given their situation, and then have to pay him that kind of money knowing that next season is almost like a rebuild year. And it kind of goes the same for other teams. Like we saw that he was linked to the Panthers, and the Panthers have the exact same situation going on with Sam Darnold right now, because they picked up his fifth-year option, so they have $18 million for him. Mm-hmm. So I don't see them adding Baker to their roster to then have these two near $20 million quarterbacks battling it out for the starting spot. I think what is most, and it doesn't seem like many teams are very desperate to add another quarterback right before the draft. It seems like the one or two teams that actually need at this point are angling towards the draft, essentially, to pick up either one of Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, and the other guy that I think is Turner or whatnot is his last name. But you never know. Approaching the draft is usually when we see a lot more action taking place between teams. But the most likely outcome of this for me is that Baker remains a Brown and then has to navigate through free agency in 2023. And then someone will pick him up and pay him less than he wanted this year.
Okay. No, for me, it just seems like if we don't have much agreement today at all. Because Unfortunately for Robbie, I believe that Carolina is probably the most likely place that Baker plays this season if he plays at all. They're the current best blend of desperation and ineptitude that, having failed at every other attempt and looking at a quarterback market, which is Jimmy Garoppolo, who has a throwing shoulder injury, or Baker, who has a non-throwing shoulder injury, or running it back with Sam Darnold or Cam Newton or whoever, they would be the ones to make a trade. Now, make no mistake, this is an expensive game of chicken that Cleveland is playing, because no matter what they say, this is their best shot to move Baker, and Baker knows this. After the draft, his value will decrease. And if perchance he ends up starting the season in Cleveland with his expiring contract, it will be impossible to get value back for him. And should he end the season still on Cleveland's roster, then they will have to let him go for free.
Yeah.
Deshaun's contract this year is $1 million. But that huge contract that they gave him, that starts to pay next year. And the franchise tag for quarterback in the 2022 season is $29.7 million. And with the expectation that the salary cap is going to rise, that cap number is also going to rise for the franchise tag. They're not going to franchise tag Baker just to ride the pine. They could try to hold out, but honestly, this is a situation in which I see only losers. Baker can't win if he doesn't play, and if he just collects that $18 million that's sitting on the bench. Cleveland can't win, don't care how you slice it. So nobody wins in this situation.
I mean, I get that, and I get what you're saying there. I just think that it will be hard for them to move him. I don't think it'll be through lack of effort, but more so through lack of interest on the part of other teams. Because the last few seasons, last few drafts, you've seen teams stocking up on quarterbacks and whatnot. So there are not very many options available. Again, I mean, we just discussed some teams that could still use quarterbacks. Do they go in for Baker? You never know. It still is very possible, but I just feel like the Browns are going to have a hard time, and they might just have to cut their losses with him at the end.
Well, I feel so too, but we'll see how that one plays out. For sure, Baker and the Browns will be back on this show.
Most definitely.
Now, in the spirit of newness, we're now going to look at the brand new NBA playoffs for 2022. I don't know how many games you've seen, AJ, but it has been exciting. Most of the games. We've had a few blowouts, but most of the games have been good watches. They've been good watches. Now, the playoff field is set with the Eastern Conference #1 seed Miami Heat playing the #8 seeded Atlanta Hawks, who defeated the Charlotte Hornets in the 9-10 game and then beat the Cavaliers in the 8th place playoff. The 2nd seeded Boston Celtics are currently going up against the 7th seeded Brooklyn Nets, who beat the Cavaliers in the 7-8 playing game. Now, the 3rd seeded Milwaukee Bucks are up against the 6th seeded Chicago Bulls, and the 4th seed 76ers, Philadelphia 76ers, are playing the 5th seeded Toronto Raptors. Over in the West, the 1 seed Phoenix Suns are playing the 8th seed New Orleans Pelicans, who had to overcome the San Antonio Spurs and the LA Clippers in the play. And the Patrick Beverly guaranteed 7th seed Minnesota Timberwolves are up against the 2 seed Memphis Grizzlies. The Golden State Warriors, they sit in the 3rd seed and they're up against the Denver Nuggets, who are the 6th. And finishing the bracket, we have the 4th seeded Dallas Mavericks playing the 5th seeded Utah Jazz. So far, all series have had at least one game, with 1-love leads for the Suns, T-Wolves, Bucks, and Celtics. The Heat are up 1-love on the Hawks and are currently playing them at the time of this recording. And the Suns and the Pelicans and the Grizzlies and T-Wolves all played their second games tonight as well. Grizzlies and T-Wolves also in progress. Suns and Pelicans will start after we are done. Dallas and Utah are tied at 1, and the Warriors are up 2-love on the Nuggets. So now looking back at what we've seen so far, who's had the best win?
Before I get into that, I must say, because I don't think we've discussed it, I'm not a fan of the play-in tournament, you know.
Really?
I'm not. I'll tell you why, right?
Go ahead.
It's not because of the entertainment factor. There definitely is that. And I guess it gives more teams a chance. But the thing is, I look at it like this, right? 30 teams in the NBA. Under the previous format, you already had more than half of the league already making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now you're adding 2 more teams who weren't good enough to finish up in that top 8 and potentially giving them the chance. So essentially 2/3 of the league is getting a chance to be in the playoffs.
Yes.
I get in, like, adding that extra game is again a little more revenue. Obviously, there's the entertainment factor for us fans, but it's kind of like how you feel about the NFL rule change. I feel like, so the players already have to play the 82-game regular season. Mind you, there's a lot more load management happening nowadays, so hardly any of them are actually playing 82 games, unless it's and is it Beasley who's I can't remember which name it was.
5 players actually.
It was 5.
All 82 games.
All 80. Right, there we go.
5 of the hundreds.
Exactly. But I don't know. It feels like the playoffs have just become a bit too convoluted for my liking now, though. If you didn't have a record good enough to finish in the top 8, you shouldn't be there. That's just the way I see it.
Interesting.
Yeah, but that's another discussion. I just wanted to get that in because I don't think that you and I have ever discussed that.
No, but I mean, I think we have time. So let's talk about that.
Sure.
No, I actually like the play-in tournament. I mean, we are not agreeing on anything today, apparently. But I like
that's all right. That's fine.
Yeah, I like the play-in tournament from the perspective that because the NBA season has so many games, they have to find a way to try to make their regular season actually matter. It's different with the NFL because the NFL is now 17 games. So too much can happen if you lose a game, especially if you lose a game early or you lose a game in the middle of the season when everyone is jockeying for position. However, it's not as bad as baseball because baseball is 106. Who sits down to watch 162 games? That baffles me. But anyhow,
not even the most avid baseball fans do that.
There you go. I digress. So we got 82 games in the NBA season, right? So load management, as you said, always comes into play because no star player wants to have to run 82 games and then have to look for 16 wins in the playoffs. So doing this, giving other teams an opportunity to make it brings a little more legitimacy to the NBA season. I can understand where you're coming from because really and truly, 2/3 of your league should not be making the playoffs. But giving them the opportunity, it helps to create interest. It gives other teams that normally might not make it an opportunity. Like when I was introducing the rundown here for this basketball segment, the New Orleans Pelicans would not be in the playoffs if they didn't get in through the play-in because they had to play in the 9-10 game and beat the Spurs and then beat the Clippers, who were the 8th seed at the end of the regular season. So it gives other teams, other markets an opportunity for more basketball. So from that perspective, we the fans don't lose. And I'm not sure how the revenue works for the play-in specifically, because that's a little bit different. But my understanding of the way the revenue works for the playoffs is that all of the money is just a pool. So every player is just paid from the pool as they get deeper into the playoffs. But like I said, I don't know how the play-in works, because for the teams that are in the play-in, especially if you are the 9th or 10th seed, that is 2 games you have to play just to make it to the tournament. So I don't know.
Yeah, I call me old school, call me old fashioned. I get like I outlined all of that before you said it too. I get all of it. I get all of it. And there is an entertainment factor. And to be honest, I probably so far have gotten to see more play-in games leading up to than I have actually been able to see playoff games thus far. Took a trip to visit some family last weekend, so I was out and about doing some stuff. Didn't see very many of the playoff games, but I watched like all but one of the play-in games, something like that, right? So that believe you me, that part is not lost upon me. I just think it's a bit ludicrous that 2/3 of the league is now has a chance. And to be fair, I have the same problem with the championship in England. You know, the fact that the top 2 teams go through, and then 3 to 6 has to compete for that last spot for promotion. And then whoever wins that playoff gets a trophy. So essentially, the team that wins and gets the 3rd spot is being rewarded with a trophy. It is absolutely ludicrous to me. But again, another story for another day. It's just I think my main issue here is the fact that we now have essentially 20 teams, 20 out of 30, 2/3 of the league potentially making. I just honestly feel that if your record hasn't been good enough to make that final 8, that final cut, you shouldn't be there. You shouldn't have a chance to get in. But but as you said, it does add a bit more excitement and whatnot, and because it's just like it's a one-off game, so it's not even guaranteed. It's not like a series, so it's like, yeah, the excitement factor is there. You really have to show up on this night and play your best ball to be able to get in.
Is the NBA version of March Madness?
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? That's a very good point, because maybe that is kind of what spurred it on in the first case, or where the idea was born of. But I don't know, Ken. I haven't really warmed up to it in that sense yet. I think it's just too much. 20 teams, 20 of the 30 teams. Like, nah, like, do what you need to do in the regular season to get there. That's just me.
Gotcha. No, I mean, that was, like I said, like you said, we never talked about it. So it's good that, you know, we've been able to ventilate on this platform. So no.
Yeah.
What's happened so far in the playoffs? Who's had the best win to you?
So I'll start by saying, as much as it pains me to say this because it's a Patrick Beverley team, I'll say the Wolves. That much you know how I feel about Pat Bev already. Listen, guys, it's all respect for Pat Bev for what he actually does on the court. Man is one of the best defensive players in the league. One of. But I just can't stand his personality. On-court personality, rather. But I would say the Wolves. I would say the Timberwolves. Going in as a 7th seed, they did what they had to do. Like in that case, when you're on the road for those first 2 games, all you need to do is win one. You need to win one. And then essentially home court is yours after that. And they did that. Right? And it was a good look as well, following that embarrassing play-in win, like the post-celebration rather, where the only thing that was basically missing was a Larry O'Brien trophy. And like Cat bouncing back, having a good game. I think it was a good look for them, right? Now, obviously, they haven't wrapped up the series with that win, but like I said, being able to get that win on the road, and it was convincing enough, because it was like, what, they won by about 12, 13 points, something like that.
I think they won by more than that, to be honest.
The game won? No, it was 130 to 117.
Okay, 13 points.
So 13.
They scored a lot.
Yeah, they scored, exactly. And that's another thing. They put up 130 on the grid. So it was a statement win away from home in that series, so it could kind of shift the tide in their favor, especially psychologically. So I would have to say that I would give them the best win so far.
Okay. So after the first games, I think I'm still going to give it to Utah, to the Jazz.
Mm-hmm.
But what makes me a little reticent to give it to them is what happened in game 2. Because they gave up their best chance, in my opinion, to win this series by not going home up 2-0. Luka Doncic has not yet played in these playoffs due to a calf strain he picked up in the regular season finale. But the expectation is he's going to be back sometime during this series. Now, I want to stick a pin here a second because I was very annoyed to see that Luka picked up this injury in game 82. And the main reason why I was annoyed that he picked up the injury in game 82 was that the only thing that the Mavericks had to play for in that game was if you win and the Warriors lose, then you are the 3rd seed and the Warriors will be the 4th seed.
Right.
It was obvious early in that game that the Warriors were not going to lose. Yeah. So somebody on the bench needed to have a phone, a tablet, or something monitoring what was happening in San Francisco so as to say, okay, the Warriors look like they're going to win this game. Luka, come take a seat. There's nothing else for you here. It was not as if to say he was in the running for any of these individual awards.
Yeah.
Let him plant his butt on the bench and not strain his calf. But that is another thing for another time. Now, the fact is, though, they expect that he's going to be back sometime. They've announced that they expect he's going to play either in game 3 or game 4 in this series. Now, the more wins that the Jazz could have gotten before he comes back, the better. Because their perimeter defense is so bad. So bad. Now, Rudy Gobert has been their defensive anchor, but he looks like a fish on a line whenever he has to step out. And they don't switch or cover their man competently. And that was obvious last night when Maxi Kleber, who I saw a stat, he was shooting either 19% or 29% from 3 since the All-Star break, is allowed to go 8 for 11 on mostly uncontested 3-pointers because the bigs, namely Gobert and Whiteside, anchored down in the paint and their chains are too short to reach the perimeter. When you allow Jalen Brunson, now Jalen Brunson, a good player. He's not an all-star.
Yeah,
he's not
true.
An all-star talent. He scores 41 points on you. And you know that Luka is coming back. That should make you concerned. But the silver lining is, as you said, when you spoke about Minnesota, the aim when you go on the road at the beginning of the playoffs is to just win one game.
Just split the series, yeah.
Steal home court and then take it back to the crib. And when you look at what Utah has done against the Mavericks, they've won 11 straight in Utah. So getting the split, it does put them in a much better position. However, if I was them, I would feel much more comfortable if we went home 2-0 up as opposed to being 1-1.
Sure. Yeah, and as you outlined, given the circumstances surrounding Dallas right now, they really should be. But I guess they had an off night mentally. That game I did not get to see actually.
Yeah, I was
game 2.
I was watching it alone last night. That game was on NBA TV, Dallas and Utah. Well, Philly and Toronto was playing on TNT. Philly and Toronto was putting on NBA TV. That series is so mismatched. Oh my God.
I was trying to watch that and it just made no sense to me.
I was falling asleep.
Yeah, It was.
There was nothing in that. There was no excitement in that game to hold on to.
And it wasn't even just one side. It was just terrible shooting,
Yes.
terrible decision making. It was like JV basketball, though.
Yes.
Ball getting turned over every 2 plays, men shooting and airballing. I was like, what am I really looking at here?
Yeah, exactly. I really felt like I should have connected my tablet to the TV and watched that game on the TV and forget about that Philly game. It was really, really bad. It was really, really bad. Anyhow, for those who've been with us during the NFL season, and you've been seeing this particular format before, you know what comes next. So, AJ, who had the worst loss?
I want to say the Nuggets. It is the Nuggets to me. It's your
home team.
Yeah, your home team.
Why?
And more so because I think, we have to factor in the fact the fact that they are missing 2 of their key players in Michael Porter and Jamal Murray, right?
Yes.
But the kind of loss for game 1, and then we were speaking in one of the chats earlier about what happened in game 2 between Gary Payton II and Joker, right? The Nuggets feel like they're unraveling. And that's why, and so we're talking about game 1. They lost game 1, 123 to 107, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just felt like that was the beginning of the end of their postseason. It just feels that way. It felt like it was a demoralizing loss. And then come game 2, and then the Warriors dropped 70 points on them in like less than 20 minutes or something like that was what it was.
Yep.
Yeah, so these guys just don't feel like playing any defense, and Joker falling out because, as I was saying in the chat, everyone knows he's a hothead, right? So you just need to get under his skin just a little bit. I don't care what y'all say. I know that Payton knew what he was doing. I tell you, that's psychological warfare taught to him by his dad is one of the greatest. Well, you feel like this man father don't know how to get in men's head. But I digress. Yeah, the Nuggets loss felt more than just like a loss to. And granted, they are playing the Warriors, but it's still. Let me put it this way: I still do have the Warriors to go through to the Western Conference Finals, right? In my bracket, I have them to go through there. So it's not that I expected the Nuggets to win, but the fashion in which it happened in game 1, and then how it spiraled downwards into game 2. That to me was the worst loss. After game 1, the Nuggets won the 107-123 loss. It was on the road, but still, it just feels ominous, like the beginning of the end, like there's no coming back from it. I'd have to say the Nuggets had the worst loss.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. No, the Nuggets are playing against the Warriors. The Warriors, to me, that game 2 performance that they put down, hands down, is the best performance we've seen in the playoffs so far. And when you have 6 man in the playoffs, Steph Curry dropping 34 points in about 20 minutes of game time, and Jordan Poole, who I believe should have been on that ballot for most improved player of the year. He's dropping 29 after dropping 30 in the previous game. The Warriors are a problem. Are a problem. And to see, they almost had a fight on the bench between DeMarcus Cousins and Will Barton.
That I didn't even know.
Yeah. They almost had a fight because they have not said what happened in the huddle. However, in the huddle, Barton was sitting, which means he was going back on the floor. Boogie was standing, so he was not going on the floor. Somebody said something, Boogie said something, then Barton got up and got on Boogie, and it was a little back and forth. And it wasn't a good look. It wasn't a good look.
That's a shame.
Now, my pick for the worst loss, hands down, is the Memphis Grizzlies. Memphis did not have the injury concerns that Dallas had coming into this game. And they're playing against a Minnesota team that had to work hard just to make it into the playoffs. And they're playing with not known for his, I just the most delicate way I could put it, not known for his toughness, Carl Anthony Towns. Second year player Anthony Edwards and junkyard dog Patrick Beverly. Memphis should have enough to take care of Minnesota. But when you look at their season series, the regular season series, the teams split 2-2, with the home team winning every game. Now, on the surface, you may say it's just one game. But when you have not beaten Minnesota in Minnesota all season long, and know you have to go there and win one game, this feels like a problem. It feels like a definite. When I can give Dallas a pass on the worst loss because they didn't have their best player, Memphis is coming fully stocked. The game that I went to Ball Arena to watch when Memphis played against the Nuggets here, Ja Morant didn't play. This was 2 games before the end of the regular season. Ja Morant didn't play. Somebody else didn't play. Oh, Jaren Johnson Jr., he didn't play. It was Desmond Bain, Dylan Brooks. Those were their main offensive weapons in that game, and they got beaten handedly by the Nuggets. You got to be able to do better. You were resting men. Men had their feet put up and sipping drinks with umbrellas. You should be able to give a better showing when you take the floor, and you just didn't do it. So no, they get the biggest L for the week. For this week. No,
fair point.
Usually when we did this for the NFL season, we would talk about who had like a moral victory. This is the playoffs. Those things don't exist. So
skipping straight to the other one.
Straight to the end. The least inspiring win. Who should feel most concerned about the win they got this weekend?
Feel least concerned. So
most concerned, not least concerned.
Most concerned. Yeah, okay, so there's something I was looking for here, right? There we go. Yeah, so it dawned on me while you were just finishing up the last part of the last segment, but that so far we've been all in the Western Conference. So I'm gonna switch it out, I'm gonna go east now. I'm gonna switch it out to the east. And for this question, there seems like there's one particular right answer, right? Like that it should be the most obvious answer, but I know you know what I mean, but I'm not going to say that. Okay. You know what I will say, who is the least inspiring win to me? The Philadelphia 76ers.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I will tell you why. The main reason is beating the Raptors, and even in the fashion that they're beating the Raptors, it's not a surprise. Did anyone really expect the Raptors to upset them? No. The Raptors seem to have reached their ceiling by even getting into the playoffs for this season, that is, right?
Yes.
The Sixers went all in to get James Harden because they want to contend for a championship. James Harden does not look like the same James Harden. His explosiveness is not there as it was. And this is since he came back from that, from the last injury. It was with the Nets before, right when around the time he was traded or whatnot. He does not look. Let me see. Let me. So in the first game, right, Harden was 6 of 17 from the field, and going to the charity stripe is where he would usually subsidize the remainder of his points. He only made 7 trips here, and hit 6. Man had, so it was 22 points, 5 boards, 14 assists. No, you can still say he's still dishing it out, getting others involved, but that's not what you brought James Harden in there for, though. James Harden can't be that. He can't be scoring just around 22 points, and then because I need to get I need to find game 2 as well. I know we're talking about the one game, but that was just a precursor to what happened in game 2. In 41 minutes, James Harden had 9 attempts, 9 shots, scored 3 of them. Again, 8 trips to the free throw line, scored 7. 14 points. No, the fact of the matter is everything looks good from the onset. Like from a macro perspective, they're still getting this job done. They're beating the Raptors into submission, right?
Yep.
Everything looks fine and dandy. But you didn't get James Harden to just get past the first round. You didn't.
Correct.
And I'm not convinced that without James Harden that they're going to make the deep run that they expect. So I'm as much as it seems like all is well in Sixer land with them bringing in Harden, it seems like, oh yeah, this duo, James Harden doesn't look the same. And beating the Raptors is not a great achievement in my book. I'm not fully convinced. I'm not fully convinced by this team and what they're doing right now. So the least inspiring win so far, and mind you, I know I mentioned the second game, but this is from the first game, Ashley. This is just from the first game. Like, as I said, that just trickled into the second game. But if we're speaking of the first game only, my answer is still the same. It's the Sixers.
So the one thought that came to me when you talked about James Harden and the Sixers, Charles Barkley has been making the same point that you started with. The Sixers did not get James Harden to get to the second round of the playoffs. They got him to win the NBA championship.
Yeah.
Or at least to be contending for the NBA championship, but making at least the Eastern Conference Finals. The second thought that popped in my head was something that Jalen Rose said, and I wish I thought of it first, but he beat me to it. He said that when you look at James Harden's shooting numbers every night, they look like concert dates. 3-9, 6-14, 4-17. So, yes.
That's hilarious. That is hilarious.
I wish I thought of it first. But no,
yeah, that
was one I reporting somebody else said before I got to it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. Yeah.
No, I said it in the chats, and I'll say it again here. Boston shouldn't be thumping their chest about how that game went on Sunday at all. At the half, Kevin Durant was 2 for 10 and had 4 turnovers. And the scores were tied. They needed a defensive breakdown to get the go-ahead score at the Horn, and they're playing at home these first 2 games. Boston is supposed to be a defensive juggernaut. After all, their guard just got Defensive Player of the Year. Although, depending on who you talk to, maybe he should not have. But Brooklyn, again, as a road team, they just need one game. They steal one game, and then Boston has to go to Brooklyn and win one. And when that happens, that is a problem. The Nets, we know the Nets are not a good defensive team, but the Boston Celtics were, I don't remember where they finished, but I'm pretty sure they were top 5 in total defense in this past regular season. And they have to do a better job containing Kyrie Irving. Kyrie, I don't remember exactly how many he scored, but it was like 39 points.
I think he had 39. Yeah.
He scored 39 points in that game, while Kevin Durant went 9 for 24. Kevin Durant is not going to go 9 for 24 every night. Kevin Durant is not going to be missing wide open shots. I mean, pretty much every shot he takes is wide open unless you can jump out the building, because the height that he releases the ball from, nobody can really get up there. So you expect that Durant is going to be better as this series progresses. So what are we doing, Boston? Like, how can you feel comfortable knowing that you literally had to win the game at the Horn against a team that, if your defense plays the way it does, and then you have Jaylen Brown, you have Jason Tatum, you should be stomping these men through the floor. This should be concerned. This should be concerned.
Like I said, I knew that is like the quintessential answer, because that has been on the tongues of many since that game concluded, right? And I don't think you're incorrect. I don't think you're incorrect. It is. I just needed to shed light on the Sixers. The reason why I didn't want to say the Celtics though is because in watching the game itself, right? Because you mentioned how poorly KD shot the ball that night. That's my guy. I'll be fair. A lot of that was down to the Celtics defense. Like, they were playing him a really physical and hard game. So they were getting him off of his momentum. He said, not allowing him to get any, essentially. He really was not getting that many free shots. Like even getting into the lane, like it was like 2 or 3 on him most times. So I guess the fact that they were doubling him and getting him out of the game was what allowed Kyrie to have such a game. At the end of the day, what they did was they eventually won the game at home. And while you're correct, it wasn't the most convincing. This series was never going to be one of those series one team was going to blow out the other. It was always going to be close and come down to like the final possession. And I remember I mentioned in the group that, and this is where I would kind of agree with you, right? Because I said that the Nets' last possession, and I actually meant their offensive possession, it was a wasted possession.
It was terrible.
It was terrible. You could, but it was also good defense from the Celtics, right?
Yeah,
but Kyrie had no idea what to do, and then all of a sudden the clock was winding. Pardon?
There was no execution whatsoever.
None.
What they were trying to accomplish.
I don't think there was a plan, Ken. It was Kyrie with the ball in his hands trying to make a play. The defense was like he had 2 on him. He was being doubled, and then all of a sudden, you know what the players from there. If Kyrie can't get through, he's looking for KD. And then by that time, KD had to throw up a shot, and then the rest is history.
Mm-hmm.
If the Celtics had lost the game, I won't feel sorry for them, because like we know what the Nets can be offensively. But the fact that they won it, I have to give them credit, which is why I didn't want to say them. And I don't want to agree with you with every single. I figured you would say that, because it is a very good answer.
I've been saying that all along since.
You have, yeah, and it is a very good answer. It's a very astute answer. But I just needed to bring attention to these Sixers, because I'm yet to be convinced.
Yeah, the Sixers do have their problems. I mean, my only thing is where the Celtics are concerned. The Celtics know that the Nets are a 2-man operation. The Nets have less depth than this glass table I'm sitting in front of. So when you know that you have to control Kevin Durant, you have to control Kyrie, and they allowed Kyrie to score 39 points. We are just waiting for KD to wake up tomorrow and say, but you know who I am? I'm Kevin Durant. And then start making shots again. So they have to do more, they have to do better. I don't believe that Philadelphia has enough to get to the NBA finals for sure.
Yeah.
When I'm looking at the bracket, I don't see them beating Miami.
I don't. I have them going out to Miami the next one.
Yeah, I have Miami going to the Eastern Conference Finals against.
Yeah.
I actually was picking Brooklyn to get there, but I mean, when Boston is playing defense at the way that they are, I can't be solid on either of those 2 teams getting past Milwaukee in the next round. Yeah. I'm accustomed to saying that Bud is the worst coach in the playoffs. But Steve Nash probably has him beat this year.
I don't even know that if Steve Nash, and that's another issue, right? Is Steve Nash really the coach, or is he just someone filling in, or someone in who has the title, rather? What did Nash really, this is more rhetorical, I'm sorry, but I just have a problem with, I don't think that this team is coached. I think that this team just operates on the back of the offensive talents of KD and Kyrie. There was no kind of adjustment made in that game 1, like whatsoever from a coaching perspective.
Right.
None. It was all just, all right, well, eventually KD going to catch fire, so we just need to let him do his thing. Kyrie already on, so we need to just hope that two of them catch a fire at the same time. But what coaching wise, like what was really done, Ken? What? This is what it's expect from people who support Tottenham, no? That kind of sense. Wastes. I don't like this man because of that, you know?
Wow, I did not see that one coming.
Yeah, I know you didn't. No, you know, cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots more basketball to come, so we will definitely spend more time discussing what's happening in these playoffs. I know next week we are supposed to be getting ready for the draft because the draft is a week away. As you're watching this on Wednesday, is 8 days away before the Jacksonville Jaguars are on the clock. So we'll be getting you guys ready for the draft next week, and we'll probably do a draft recap the week after. But of course, we'll keep you posted as what's happening in the basketball. At this point, as we are finishing this recording now, the Miami Heat, they're up 2-0 on the Atlanta Hawks. No big surprise there. Memphis is currently leading 23 points, 77-54 over Minnesota, and they're halfway through the third quarter. So we'll see how that game ends up. But as always, we thank you for being here with us and sharing your time with us. We will see you guys next week. So for the GreenBaje podcast, as always, again, that is AJ. He is the Green. I am Ken. I am the Beige. And we will see you next time.